I'm here at the main station, or Główna, as they say in Poland, here in Bielsko-Biała. It seems like the best place for me to tell you about one of my favourite reads of 2020, which is this magnificent book, Antal Serb's Journey by Moonlight. This is closely observed literature, and I'm Christopher Walker. So, what is Journey by Moonlight all about? Well, it's about love, it's about travel, it's about naivety, disappointment, longing. It's about pretty much everything that you could think of, all wrapped up in one book, in a really delightful story. So, I don't want to give too much away because, well, it's not going to harm your enjoyment of the story that much, but I don't want to spoil the ending or anything like that. Let me just lay the foundations. Mihaly, a Hungarian young guy, is on his honeymoon in Venice with his new wife Ersi, and for some reason, probably the alcohol, the spirit of the place, for some reason he starts talking about his youth and his kind of weird love story with a young girl called Eva and her brother. One of these kind of tragic romances, I suppose, that you find in so many books of this sort of period. So Eva and her brother had this kind of death wish sort of thing. They were a group of friends that Mihaly was part of, and it's a bit like when you're in a story and you don't know how it concludes. The story is going to bug you for a long time, and that seems to have been the problem for Mihaly. He starts thinking that something isn't finished in his life, and he starts to regret the fact that now that he's married to Ersi, that side of his story will never be told. And I can understand that. I mean, I look back at some of the people I've known over the years, some of the relationships I've been in, and I've often wondered what would have happened if. You know, there was a person that I met when I started teaching back in Krakow, back in 2006. I still think about that person quite a lot, and about the way that there was this kind of mysterious air about her. And I'm not saying that I would have wanted to marry her. I think I would have been a terrible husband for her. We never even had a relationship, so that's not going to happen. But the same really is true for Mihaly. There wasn't really that sort of a relationship there between him and Eva. It doesn't matter. That was what drives the story forwards. So he starts to think that maybe he's made a mistake, he's rushed into things, he's married so that he can keep his family happy rather than because he's in love with Ersi. And he starts to think that maybe she's too bourgeois for him, maybe she's not the one after all. And then we come to what for me is one of the greatest episodes in literary history. It's a personal favourite. They're on a train together, I think they're going to Capri, somewhere like that. Mihaly's going on and on about how great Italy is. Ersi's a bit peeved because she's still getting over his confession of a recent night when he was telling her the story of him and Eva and this family. And she starts saying, oh, well, yeah, Italy's great, but I wish we were in Austria. And he's like, what? Austria? How can you say that? Listen, we're going to Capri, I know, but look, there are these great little Tuscan towns where we could get off the train and explore. Let's do that. And she's like, are you crazy? I just want to get there, come on. So then he says, oh, I'm really hungry. I'm just going to hop off the train at this little stop. I'll grab a bite to eat and then I'll come back on. And she's like, are you crazy? You're gonna miss the train. It's going to start and it'll leave without you. It's like, it's not going to happen. Relax. She said, quite punchingly, all right, bye, silly monkey. Do write to me. He gets off the train, goes to find a bite to eat and a coffee, and then notices the train pulling away, starts running, jumps on the train. It's like, phew, I made it. Unfortunately for him, but fortunately for the rest of us, it's actually the train to Perugia, and it's an express. It doesn't stop at any of the little stations along the way. He's now stuck. He's left his wife. And the reason I love it, I love the spontaneity, I love the way that it's described, I love the accidental nature, but more than anything else, I love the fact that with that little event, the rest of the book becomes a mystery. you know, when you're reading a book, you can often tell after about 20 or 30 pages what the direction is that it's going to take. You know, if it's a murder, the murder's probably going to be solved, but if it's a postmodern murder story, it's not going to be solved, and it'll be like, okay, yeah, well, that was a great twist. Yeah. Here, we've got a young marriage. The guy gets onto the wrong train. What's going to happen? Is he going to search for his wife? Is he going to try and get back to her? Is he going to have to apologise? What's going to happen next? It was so unpredictable, and it drove me on. I loved it. It was brilliant. The whole book is brilliant, and you know, it's got all these glowing reviews. You know, Nicholas Lezard for The Guardian saying, I can't remember the last time I did this. Finished the novel and then turned straight back to page 1 to start it over again. I didn't quite do that myself, but I can understand the sentiment. I love this book. It's brilliant. One of the reasons I love it... Oh, there's an announcement about the train. There's a part of me that wants to just get on the next train. There's one to Katowice in about half an hour, and there's one to Żywiec going the other way in about 10 minutes. But I've got lessons today. I've got a wife and kids at home. I can't go off like that. Plus there's a lockdown starting very soon, so no. Life is not fiction. Anyway, coming back to the book, one of the reasons that I love it so much, I was talking to a friend of mine in America, Nika. Very, very clever person. One of the cleverest I've ever met in my life, I have to say. And she was telling me about how she's finished reading Flaubert's Sentimental Education, which everyone who I know who's read it loves. Woody Allen loves it. And then I started, oh, wait, Woody Allen loves it. The people I know who love it are all men. And here's Nika saying, doesn't really seem to get inside the head of women very much, does he? I was like, yeah. Well, that's not the case here, because we actually, once that schism happens and he's on the wrong train, we start to learn a lot more about Ershi as well as Mihaly and Eva. And we get into Ershi's head. And this is one of the things I love about the story, and spoiler alert, to an extent, this is the great irony. Mihaly decides to run off to pursue this fantasy, this dream. Ershi is the dream that he wanted. She heads off to Paris, of all places, because why not? You know, if you've just been left on a train by your new husband, where else would you go? You'd go to Paris, come on, admit it, especially at this time, it was like the 1920s or something. You'd do it, I would. So off she goes to Paris, and we learn that she's actually the kind of bold, adventurous spirit that Mihaly has been searching for his whole life. And that was what really capped it off for me. I loved it. Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to stop gushing because it's time for you to go off and read this book. Leave a comment below if you've read it, and if you recommend anything else of Antal Szerb's. I know he's written a few others. I've got something waiting on my Kindle of his. I'll need to read that. Oh. Trains. There's a connection, isn't there? Good books have trains in them. Oh well. Until next time, thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.